It's safe to say the Carolina Hurricanes made a trade, and it's not for JT Miller or Elias Pettersson. Welcome to Carolina, Mikko Rantanen and Taylor Hall.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a emergency pod of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the Carolina Hurricanes credentialed beat writer over at the Hockey Writers, also the host of the Searchcast, along with all my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. I have a longer spiel for that, but we can't do that right now because this is talk about my 200th episode of hosting this podcast, and it's a blockbuster of all blockbusters. Sorry, Niederreiter. Sorry for every other massive trade that the Hurricanes have done in the last 25 years. This is we thought the Max Pacioretty deal was huge. We thought the Brent Burns deal was huge. Forget all of that because the Carolina Hurricanes on Friday night at 8 o'clock decided, you know what? We're just going to make things very interesting and make the biggest trade before we are less than 2 months away from the trade deadline. And they're like, nope, forget that. We're not waiting. We're going to do it right now. They have traded for Mikko Rantanen and Taylor Hall. And sorry, I do have a special guest with me. It is Bailey Curtis. For that. Sorry, I know this is absolutely insane. So we have Bailey Curtis from the Hockey News. She is the Colorado Avalanche beat writer. So obviously I get her on because we got to get her thoughts on Mikko, now going to go to the Carolina Hurricanes, and also who they're going to get back in the trade. So the official trade is, and Frank Saravelli was the first one on this, then LeBrun got in on it, then Freeman got in on it, then Emily Kaplan from ESPN, and Kevin Week. So all the who's, everyone got on this. And it's like, we were like, okay, who's going where? Who's part of the deal? It's like, okay, it's Taylor Hall. Okay, cool. Carolina's part of it. Taylor Hall's going to come, to Carolina. Then all of a sudden it's boom, Mikko Rantanen, and everyone's like, hold the phone. What now? Hold the phone. So this is the official trade for Frank Saravelli. There's another small piece. It's just a guy that is part of just with retention and all that.
And to make it clear, you guys are hearing this as soon as the NHL has confirmed the trade. I just got the email from Avs PR giving all the information. So this is like the ink is still fresh, guys.
Like I said, this is like basically when you guys hear this, it's gonna be like right after we're done recording. Like there's no next day. This is Friday night, double pod Friday.
Grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab whatever keeps you up. Because guys, this one's crazy.
Yeah, grab your popcorn. Yeah, two podcasts and an article for me tonight. It is going to be a long one. I do not care. So this is the trade. The Carolina Hurricanes got Mikko Rantanen from the Colorado Avalanche and Taylor Hall from the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, here's the thing. So we're going to do the Blackhawks first because this is the very interesting part of the trade here. That's not even going back to Colorado yet. The Blackhawks are reattaining their own pick that they traded to Carolina, which was a 2025 third. So they're reacquiring a pick they've already given up to the Hurricanes. They're getting that back. And they actually retained half of Mikko Rantanen's salary. And that's $4.6 million that Chicago took. And as I'm talking about this, the Hurricanes also just announced they basically did the entire trade. And we are beyond officially official. This is absolutely wild right now where we're at. So like I said, so the Blackhawks kept $4.6 million of Mikko Rantanen's contract, and they get their 2025 third that they originally gave to Carolina. Of course, Hurricanes, Rantanen, Hall. This is what Colorado's getting, and they got it's a pretty substantial return for who they got. So we'll do the picks first, just to kind of draw this out a little bit here. 2025 second from Carolina, a 2026 fourth, also from Carolina. And that's not all. They get two players back in this trade. And originally you knew one was automatic. The second one, there was a mix-up. At first, it was just Barry Kokoniemi. But it was Jack Drury who's actually going back. So the Hurricanes are giving up one of their young centers. Of course, former Calder Cup champion in 2022 with the Chicago Wolves. I think this is probably what was part of the main cog of this trade to go back to Colorado. Points leader Martin Necas is head of the Colorado Avalanche. And Bailey, I have to get your thoughts first. I mean, I'm just in a whole state of like, oh my gosh, what is going on? We go from like Taylor Hall to now we also get him and Rantanen, and then we get the return. Like, what's your initial thoughts looking at this trade? The fact that it's Mikko going to Carolina and Necas, Jack, and picks are coming to Colorado.
Before I even touch the return that comes in for Mikko Rantanen, I do want to touch on the fact that this was never a done deal between the Avalanche and Mikko Rantanen. I had heard little inklings that had said if this deal was not, if they didn't come to some sort of agreement for a deal by the Four Nations tournament, he was getting dealt. Now, there's other things that make this a little more interesting too, when you think about how according, and not sure how much truth there is to it. Again, like all the things that I am hearing and seeing are rumor based. But when you hear that there was a potential trade going on to send Mikko Rantanen to Carolina last week and he turned it down, they gave him an ultimatum saying it's either Chicago or Carolina, you take your pick. And that's why Mikko Rantanen is potentially, they're now wearing red, black, and white. So that's an interesting piece of it.
The southern version of red, black, and white, because that's who Chicago is too.
Well,
in terms of their colors, but
anyway, So there was always that. There was always the okay, if something we don't reach an agreement by Four Nations, done deal. Okay, whatever, cool. Obviously, that is what has happened. Rumors have been going around that Mikko was potentially searching for $14 million on the open market, and with deals like McKinnon's and McCarr's and Druin's and Lekkonen's, signing Mackenzie Blackwood to his 5-year deal, there was just no making that $14 million happen, even with a potentially less than that with a hometown discount. So dealing Mikko Rantanen, I think, for the Colorado Avalanche is the smartest thing they could have done, because you get this return and talented guys like Martin Necas and Jack Drury. You get these guys that are going to bolster the Avs lineup, which is very injury ridden, still somewhat injury ridden, still filled with a lot of prospects trying to fill in those holes and fill in those gaps. They haven't had a proper starting lineup since the beginning of the season, and even before then, because Nichushkin was still waiting out his suspension. So you get guys like Martin Necas and Jack Drury who have had a ton of time playing NHL minutes. Not to mention, these are both two guys that have requested trades from Carolina in the past. I mean, everybody, if you've been a Canes fan for a while, should remember all the drama that kind of happened with Jack Drury wanting a trade to play somewhere that would maybe quote unquote appreciate him more or give him more minutes at a better, because he knew his worth. So this almost seems like they're finally getting their wish. They're finally getting what they wanted. And I just quote tweeted something on Kane Statbrand's post that said this speed that Martin Necas brings to this Avs team, he's going to fit right in. This is a team that likes to play fast. They like to play a quick transition game when they can get the ball rolling. This is a team that really has started to find their quick starts. This is a team that's been struggling with their special teams. So the power play has only had one goal, I want to say, in their last 10 games. So this is a team where their man advantage is really, really struggling. And this is something that Martin Necas could potentially help fix. Coming onto this team. Now, I don't know if this is something Ray Bennett is going to potentially assimilate in, since Mikko Rantanen was part of the power play and there's that missing spot open that I think Necas would fit pretty wonderfully. They have woes outside of Mikko Rantanen. Mikko Rantanen is far from the biggest issue on this Avs power play, but I digress. Not an issue anymore, obviously. But again, I will say Jack Drury, maybe isn't, the fit that I maybe imagined for this team, but he's going to add some bottom six consistency, I think, for this Avs team. Now, talking about what Carolina gets in return in Mikko Rantanen, you get a guy who plays a great transition game. You get a guy who feisty. First off, he has a little bit of grit to him that comes out every now and again. You get a guy who really he blends well. He's got a little bit of versatility. Jared Bednar tried him at center a couple games ago. Made that switch in the third period to play him at center, and he played great. Now he's more of a winger, but you're adding a guy who's got a great shot from the face-off dot. He's got just a hard, fantastic shot anyway. You're adding a sniper. You're adding a guy who's going to get you goals. You're adding a guy who's going to add chemistry with all of the Finns that are already on this lineup as well.
And he's on pace for 107 points too.
And that was going to be my next point too. You're getting a guy who is currently, if I'm not mistaken, one of the top leaders in goals and a top 5 guy, if I'm not still mistaken, in points. So it's the biggest point of contention that I've heard in Canes circles was that the Canes don't have a star. Even if Sebastian Aho was not in that conversation, there's no way to count this team out now.
Not having stars. 64 points for Rantanen, which is 6th in the NHL. Goals wise, 25, which is 7th.
So you're getting a guy who is top 10 in both points and goals.
Tied for 7th with 39 assists. Yeah, you're talking a top 10 guy, top 6 guy, basically, in terms of all points. Like I said, 7th in goals and tied for 7th in assists. The Hurricanes have gotten they've pretty much got their superstar player.
And not to mention too, I mean, Rantanen is by no means the grittiest player on the ice when it comes to the Canes. He's not going to be the grittiest guy out there. You want to talk grit? We can talk a little bit about Taylor Hall. Who when I was kind of making my little brief analysis too, one of the first things I mentioned is that Carolina is going to get a little bit of physicality. And Taylor Hall coming to this team too, because he might not be a power forward per se, but he knows how to battle for pucks. He knows how to throw the body around when he needs to, which is exactly come playoff time what Carolina's going to need to make that extra push to potentially make it further into
100%
making themselves viable for a cup.
And think about this too. He's also a former league MVP. I know it's been a little bit since that happened, but you're still talking about a guy who's, maybe he's not shooting the lights out because he was hurt this season. He's on a not that great Blackhawks team, but he was, pulling his weight when he was on the ice. And now you put him in a spot like Carolina where you're going from dead last in the league to now you're on the second best team in the Eastern Conference. We're talking points wise because they jumped Toronto and they're headed to New Jersey. So now you added a left winger and now you just added a right winger. So now your top 6 has gotten a massive upgrade. So now you're talking. Possibly a Svechnikov, Aho, Rantanen first line, or maybe a Jarvis, Aho, Rantanen, and then a Svechnikov, Hall. Or was Svechnikov, Kotkaniemi, Hall second line?
Now, I will say it might be a little bit of a culture shift.
For sure.
Because speaking of the very different games that Colorado and Carolina play, 100%. Carolina tends to slow the game down a little bit compared to Colorado. He's used to a more fast-paced game. So I think I want Canes fans to not get a lot of hopes up for immediate success from Rantanen because this is going to be a big adjustment period for him.
Going from Colorado to Carolina. He's been used to being in Colorado. It's like you're going from time zone differences, you're going to city differences. Yeah, you said team difference too in style.
When it comes to altitude, he might be He might be breathing a little bit easier, but it's going to be a huge adjustment period
His
with how this
speed,
plays.
the speed and the shot this guy's going to have is absolutely insane. And
Mhm.
I mean,
You're also too, and I want to mention too, the Avalanche have really seen a huge like the top line plays a lot of minutes. Like when you look at the difference between the first line and the fourth line, the difference is night and day. You're talking about fourth line guys who play maybe 5-6 minutes a night to some guy and the top line guys who are playing close to 25.
yeah,
If not a couple more. So you're also getting a guy who knows how to play long, hard shifts, which isn't maybe what you always want out of a guy, but you want a guy who you can rely on if you need to double shift him, if you need to, if you need an extra push. He's one of the guys that you put out there to help create that extra push for late period goals if you're tied up, and things like that. So there's a lot to look forward to here for Canes fans.
No, 100%. And we'll actually talk more about that because we talked about the initial trade and what they could be bringing, but what's the overall impact going to be for, Carolina and also for the other team, for Colorado as well. So we'll actually do that here in a second on a emergency podcast edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Attending NFL playoff games is an unforgettable experience that brings fans together. I remember the excitement and energy of a playoff game I attended last year and looking forward to making new memories this season. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONAHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, guys, we are back once again, and we kind of talked about, just the overall trade, what the Hurricanes are going to be getting, what Colorado's going to be getting. But if you look at just the impact, because we talk about, Rantanen, it's going to be a little bit of a slower process, but you're adding a guy who's got speed, like you said, has also got a shot. And we kind of briefly talked about the top six, and it's going to be very interesting of how you're going to try to form Rantanen somewhere in there with also Jarvis, with also Svechnikov, and now it's like you also got Taylor Hall. So you're trying to formulate what your top six is going to look like. I mean, heck, they could even say, hey, Taylor Hall, how about you go left side, Jordan Stahl, Jordan Martinook, Jackson Blake go to the second line. There's so many different things the Hurricanes can go with. They can even put Hall on the second line and pair him with whoever it's going to be, because probably it's going to be Kotkaniemi now as you're probably going to be your second line center, unless something else happens. But you just got into second place in the East, had a day off. You're going to Long Island on Saturday against the Islanders, and it's like, you know what? We're just going to get faster. We're going to just jump the point total, because now you get a guy who's already in the 60s. He's on pace for 107, which would be not just a relocation Hurricanes record, which is 100 set by Eric Stahl back in 05-06. This would be I think it's the entire franchise, including the Whalers. I think that was I think I saw it earlier. Yes, from Big Head Hockey. Yes. That would be a new franchise record that would pass Mike Rogers, who did 105 twice back in the 80s, Ron Francis with 101, Blaine Stoughton also with 100, and then Eric Stahl with 100. Yeah, Mikko Rantanen right now is on pace to obliterate an overall franchise record in points. Like, talk about an instant boost. Yeah, obviously, you're still going to figure what you're going to do with this contract, because he is going to be a UFA. But, and I tweeted this out too, Bailey, you have, the cap's going to go up. We all know it's going to be 30. It could be 93, could be 94 million. Who really knows? Like, they're even talking about, like, escrows are done at this point. Like, all the guys, everyone's getting their money. The cap's going up. And the thing too is Carolina is going to have a lot of contracts coming off the books. You got Orlov, Burns, Anderson. I know Robinson's coming off, but they're hoping to extend him. They have so many guys whose contracts are coming off the books, and with the cap jump as well, you could be looking at a possibility where if Mikko Rantanen wants $14 million, I would not be shocked if Carolina comes in between that 13 and 14, depending on how many years, if he's okay with going down $1 million, or if they want to go for the 14 and just be like, fine, we'll give it to you, because obviously you're going to be our cornerstone superstar at this point with Sebastian Aho. And you got Finns, because, Finns get wins, and that's just it's absolutely mind-blowing. You got those two, and Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and the adopted Finn of Seth Jarvis all on one team.
Let's also take a look at this too, just tweeted out by Walt Ruff, and I love this stat. At just 28 years old, Mikko Rantanen is already the 7th highest scoring Finnish-born player in NHL history.
That is absolutely...
Now, and I want to go back to contract talks, because I think since the team went into Eric Tulsky's hands, we've looked at a little bit of a different front office in regards to how they think about this team. Because under Don Waddell, this team has never been a very splashy team when it comes to high-end forwards. They've never been one to hand out contracts more than maybe $9 million, unless you're a franchise guy like Sebastian Aho or Jacob Slavin. And even then, those contracts came with Eric Tulsky weighing in and things too. Now that you've got him at the helm, you saw potential contracts with Jake Gensel happen, where that was a potentially like splash type move. I mean, hell, even getting him to the Hurricanes was kind of a splash that this team's never really seen before. They've never really been a super, make a splash at the deadline, make a splash in free agency, unless they know they can retain it for a long time.
Yeah, because the only things I can remember is what Brent Burns, for getting him, was kind of a big deal. I know, because he waived his contract to come to Carolina, but and then the Jake Gensel deal, it was a little bit of a splash move, but he left. I think that's
what I'm saying is you look at Jake
Gensel.
You look at Jake Gensel before he signed his contract, and they were prepared to offer him what, $10 million?
No,
$9 million?
They were matching his $8 million that he was asking for. He got $9 million from Tampa because he had to take a year less because he wasn't with them at the time, but because of also not having state tax in Florida, that's why he got the extra $1 million.
My point still stands.
Oh yeah, they were going to meet at 8. They were going to meet him at $8 million.
You splash $8 million on a guy like Jake Gensel, who is not a franchise. He's not known. The Canes system didn't really know him. They didn't know him until he was traded there for the trade deadline. So you don't know who this guy is. You don't know what potentially he could bring to the team, because again, it's an interesting system under Rod Brindamore to adjust to. But you have the ability to make this splash at $14 million after two franchise guys take hometown discounts to stay with the Canes for long-term deals.
Wait, are we talking about Aho? Or are we talking about Jarvis? Because there's a lot.
The 3 guys. Sorry.
Yeah, I was to say there's 3 guys who are all making less than $9 million, and 2 of them are making under 8. And 1 in Jacob Slavin making less than 6.5. Yeah, you could easily, with those contracts, that's why it's such a big brain move. I don't know how long this was, but the fact that you said you got those guys on such really good deals, that if you go get a guy like Mikko Rantanen who wants 14, with cap going up, with guys coming off the Bucks, I mean, you probably got Scott Morrow next year coming back for the defense, with Orlov probably leaving. And you also probably got Nikishin coming over as well next year, because everyone knows that he's going to come over because he wants to come to Carolina.
Entry-level deals.
There's 2 entry-level deals right there that basically that's less than $100,000 for both of those guys. For at least, I know for Nikishin's going to be a little bit longer than Morrow's, because he's playing right now in Chicago and he's absolutely lighting it up for the Wolves. Let's not forget that right now. So you bring those 2 guys in on defense. You figure out your tandem goalie with Pierre Kachek. I was only making $2 million. You could easily give Mikko 14 years if he wants it that much. And the fact that he's going to be on the
14 million, not 14 years.
I meant 14 million. Sorry. Hey, we can't do 14 years anymore because Ilya Kovalchuk said otherwise. And the league's like, no. But yes, 14 million. But you think about this too. Now you have another Hurricane that's going to be in the 4 nations, and it's also going to be on Team Finland with Sebastian Aho, and he's going to try to campaign to keep him in here. You got multiple Finns on this team. You're going to have the cap space. Like, you just got your cornerstone franchise player that you have to extend. Like, you would have to think, Bailey, that there's no way Carolina would go into this giving up Martin Necas at 6.5. You just give up Jack Drury, and you just give up 2 draft picks for a possible rental. I don't see this as we're going to go in, we're going to make a cup run now, and then
I hate that I keep drawing parallels back to Jake Gensel, but that's exactly why they went into that Jake Gensel deal, because there was an opportunity for him to resign. And before everything happened with Tampa Bay, he sounded like he was all for it.
Yeah, Carolina in the draft said they would do it.
That it seemed like a stipulation that if you're going to sign here, we're not looking at you as a potential rental. We're looking at this as a potential long-term situation for you here.
Yeah.
So I find it, again, same as you, really, really hard to believe that Eric Tulsky and company go into this without putting that out, saying, Mikko, hey, we want you to be a Hurricane, but we want you to be a Hurricane for longer than a couple months. We want to give you an opportunity to potentially improve our team and win a cup here. We want to keep that window open for that as long as possible, and we're willing to pay you what you want in order to do it.
Carolina is not a team that's known for a huge. I don't think anyone has gotten double digits in AAV. I have to go back and look, but I don't think anyone's ever touched that in Carolina.
Think it's ever been done, and not in Carolina.
He could be the first player to hit double digits per season. I would not be upset with that. If you give this guy, I've tweeted this out twice on socials. Like, okay, can they get this done? You know what I said, Bailey? 14/8. Thank you very much. You walk away. You got Mikko Rantanen for the rest. You got him for the next 8 seasons. And he's what? He was 28, right?
Mm-hmm.
Done. 36. Boom. Carolina Hurricane. You're good to go. This guy's not going to slow down. Like, him and Aho are going to just start obliterating records at this point. Like,
now, I think there's something to be said too. You talk about pairing him with a guy like Sebastian Aho, and I think the chemistry there is going to be unmatched. I think they're both not only from the same country. You've got that chemistry line down pat. That storyline's taken off and it's running already. Yeah. But you're looking at guys who are both really, really serious about the game. You're looking at guys who both have an incredible shot, incredible passing skills. You're talking about guys who have talent. Now, I say this with all the love in the world for Sebastian Aho. He is no Nathan MacKinnon. Nathan MacKinnon is on a different level. You're talking about the guy who won the Hart last year. And you're talking about that being the partner. Their tandem almost very similarly reminds me of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl in the way that they know each other well enough to know where they're going to be on the ice, what they're going to be doing, and what their intentions are and where they need to be in order to support what's going on each side of the ice. And that is what Mikko Rantanen is losing and going to Carolina too, is that it's almost the same chemistry that Sebastian Aho and Teuvo Teravainen had at times. And it's the kind of chemistry that you miss, especially in a season like this one. So that I think is going to be a handicap going into this for not only Mikko Rantanen, but for that wherever he ends up being too, because let me know if we need to put this in a different segment as well. But you also talk about a guy who's known for blending lineups versus Jared Bednar, who's for the most part, as far as starting lineups go, is pretty concrete. Yeah. He'll change things up depending in second and third periods, potentially needing to find a spark some places. But it was I could bet most games that Mikko Rantanen is playing in the exact same position on the exact same line every single game.
You would have
I use that bet 9 out of 10 times. Or 1 out of 10 times.
I agree with you on that. I think with the fact that you're getting a guy like Mikko Rantanen, I don't think Rod would be someone. I mean, I could be wrong here, but I don't think if you get a guy like that we're gonna just shift him up and down the lineup. Like, no, Mikko is one right wing, done and done for. I don't see them going and acquire this guy. But okay, we're going to put you second line, or of course, Rod has a number of his lines, but I just don't see him not getting top line minutes because he's going to be on the first power play unit because basically him and Necas are just going to swap first PP1 lines. I just don't see that how it's going to work out. And I think it's like, yeah, Aho, maybe he's not on the level of McKinnon, but you're still talking about a guy who is basically going to probably have all the offensive records when it's all said and done in Carolina. So it's going to be very interesting how those two combine. But now the real question is who's on the left wing? Do you go with Svechnikov or do you go with Aho because you have that chemistry with those two guys? And Seth Jarvis is no stranger to throwing hits and scoring goals too, and setting up because we saw in the game, the other night where they were playing okay against Columbus. First period, they're down 2-0. Swap him over to the first line with Svechnikov and Aho. And that first line, that line goes absolutely off in the second period. They both, like Aho and Jarvis, both get 3 points. Seth goes and gets his first 4-point game, 2 goals, 2 assists, 6 high danger chances. And he's on pace for 70 points as well. That first line wasn't doing much. He jumps up, boom, instant. You get 5 unanswered goals. So if you're going to make a first line that works, Seth Jarvis can play on either side of the wing because we've seen him do it. Because he's done it when they had Aho and Blake. If you get Rantanen, Aho, Jarvis, good luck. Good luck shutting down that line.
Yeah.
You got 3 guys who are dogs that they're going to go after, and they're going to just, maybe you're not going to see a whole lot of hits from Rantanen, but Jarvis isn't afraid to throw a body.
Mm-hmm.
And you're talking Sebastian Aho, who's a pretty good playmaker who can dish it. Not bad at all.
No.
You'll easily take that. Now, we did talk about Mikko Rantanen a whole lot because it's Mikko Rantanen, and nothing against the other guy that the Hurricanes got, former MVP and all that stuff.
It's the only guy I got. I can dish on, guys. I was in his locker room. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Well, we are going to talk about Taylor Hall in the third segment, so just stick around, guys. We are going to talk about Taylor Hall, what that means for the Hurricanes as well. But yeah, I mean, like I said, nothing against him, but when you hear Mikko Rantanen, it's kind of like,
again, top 10 guy in almost every single stat.
He's top 7. He's top 7 in every stat. That's insane. You get a top 7 guy, and he's probably gonna set the new franchise record for points in this season, and you just got him. Mm-hmm. And you're probably gonna give him the first double-digit contract per season for the Hurricanes. So yeah, I'm excited about Mikko Rantanen. Bailey, I know bittersweet because you're losing Rantanen, but you are getting Martin Necas and Jack Drury, which we've already talked about as well. So you do get something back from your hometown team. So you at least get something back, but you
swap of the hometown teams.
Swap of the teams.
Crazy.
But guys, stick around real quick as we are going to talk about Taylor Hall and what his impact is going to be for the Carolina Hurricanes. We already know what Mikko's is going to be. We got to talk about Taylor Hall. So stick around as we'll do that here in a second on a emergency podcast edition of Locked On Hurricanes. All right, guys, we are officially back. And like I said, nothing against the guy that the initial reports were about in Taylor Hall, but they do get him. And this is something that's even more wild. You're talking about a guy who was a former, not really a former, he was the first overall pick by the Edmonton Oilers. He won an MVP with the New Jersey Devils. And that was still an insane trade back at that time where you go and he gets traded for Larson of all guys. That was just a weird trade. But you look at Taylor Hall this season right now, 46 games played, 9 goals, 24 points. His average time on ice is almost 15 minutes, 1 power play goal, 3 power play points. He is averaging 0.52 points per game. He is a minus 15, but I have to give it the caveat of that. It is with the Chicago Blackhawks, so take that as you will, which, it is what it is in that aspect, but you're still getting a guy who's pretty dang good in Taylor Hall. And what his impact's going to be, it'll be interesting to see what it is, because right now he is His current age, if we look at where it is right now, he is 33. So still relatively decent in terms of, I know he's on the wrong side of 30 in terms of NHL life expectancy. But I mean, overall, I mean, you still really can't be too upset with, you get a former MVP, first overall pick, and stuff like that. And, that's not bad. That's not too shabby when you look at getting Taylor Hall for what he's done with a heart, first overall. Like we already talked about MIKKO Rantanen, Stanley Cup champion, 3 straight 90-point seasons out of Moose. And I'm sorry to our friend Taylor Moose, that's his,
Oh God,
there's
he's
a new
gonna riot.
There's a new Moose in town, but honestly though, Hall, Hall's been with Edmonton, New Jersey, Buffalo, now Chicago. He's been kind of in there and everywhere right now, but still not a bad pickup. Still someone you can put in your top 6. You potentially could have put him on your third line if you want to put him with the Jordans. Still not bad either. So definitely a good top 9 guy if you really want to put him on there. He'd probably be good for the second power play unit.
The only thing that I worry about with Taylor Hall is I go and look at his stats over the past couple seasons.
Health is going to be the problem.
Yeah, and so that's the one thing that I worry about with the Hurricanes. You're looking at a guy who on the season already for this 24-25 season, 9 goals, 15 assists in 46 games played. I don't mind that. You can definitely from those stats alone, without knowing what kind of player he is, can tell you definitely prefers the pass over the shot, which isn't the worst thing in the world. But again, when you're getting another guy like Mikko Rantanen, who tends to be usually kind of favors the former, you're getting a guy who battles for pucks. You're getting a guy who can make that extra pass. Yeah, maybe he has some slip ups every now and again. That plus minus isn't great. Especially with what I'm seeing, 14.59 minutes averaged per game. But you're getting a guy who, can score every now and again, but is going to provide a good amount of playmaking ability. And I don't know if the Canes need any more of that in their top 6, which is where finding Taylor Hall's fit, I think, in my opinion. Now, I haven't watched this team as much as I have in years past, but it just seems to me like it's going to be kind of difficult to find a proper fit for Taylor Hall in the top 6. Anyway.
That's what I'm thinking. It's probably more of a top 9 if you want to put him with the Jordans, and then just put Blake on that second line, which still isn't bad if you were to look at it. If it's Svechnikov, Kotkaniemi, Blake, not really a bad second line, all things considered. Now, William Carrier, as we talk about this, I think with William Carrier being out, I think this kind of what probably progressed this a little bit quicker for the Hurricanes, because now you're looking at now it's like, okay, Juha Jaska, Eric Robinson, Jack Roslovic. That's probably what your fourth line is going to look like. Is a combination of those 3, because that's the only thing that can make sense. Because unless they put Roslovic with Svechnikov and Kotkaniemi, and still keep Blaker on the bottom line with Jaska and Robinson, or they move Robinson back up. I don't know. This would be very interesting to see how it works out. But yeah, I think with Hall, could you put him in the top 6? Maybe. More so maybe top 9, but I guess it really just depends on where they think that their fit's going to be with him. But it's like I said, nothing against Taylor Hall. It's just you got to worry about the health a little bit and make sure that's kind of a thing, and that's going to be a main thing. So this is actually from Ryan Henkel from the Hockey News. He just dropped this about Tulsky on Rantanen. Mikko is one of the premier power forwards in our sport. It's no secret that we wanted to add elite skill to our lineup. And this is a player who should fit our system and locker room well. and Taylor gives us another high skill option to bolster our attack. So on Rantanen and Taylor Hall, that is from Eric Tulsky per Ryan Henkel. Nailed it perfectly. I mean, what more
Right
can you
on the
really say
head.
about that?
No,
Yeah,
there's not much to say. Like, I mean, this is a guy. I know we were trying to focus more on Taylor Hall, but again, like talking about Mikko Rantanen, this is a guy who's known and revered around the league as being one of the best. There's a reason he was one of the first picks to the Four Nations roster. There's a reason that he is as
him
good as
and Aho.
him and Aho. Yeah. So
and yeah, so nothing against Taylor Hall. I mean, I'm happy for Taylor Hall. Like, I think you're adding a former Hart winner, former first overall pick. He's been there and done that. Like, he's had some good seasons, and he's going to add a little bit of an attack. A great fit on the power play 2 unit. Like, I see him being a great addition to that team. Rantanen's going to go, first, power play unit as well. So you're bolstering the power play units that were kind of struggling as of late before, Jarvis's goal against Columbus. They were like 0 for their last 30 in terms of the power. Like, they've tumbled out of the top 10 to I think they were like 17th last time I checked. That's how far the Hurricanes dropped in the power play unit. And now you're adding 2 guys that really could bolster it, and not former Stanley. You got a former Cup champion, the consistent 90-point guy, a Hart and a first overall. Not a bad night for the Carolina Hurricanes when you go and get those 2 guys. And and I will say it stinks that you're going to be missing out on Martin Necas because he was on a career run, and Jack Drury, who's been solid. He's probably one of your best faceoff guys all season, but.
I mean, I still remember clearly from attending the game in Carolina against the Abs. Jared Bednar had so many fantastic things to say about Martin Necas as a player.
Yep, I remember
and the
that.
way that his game continues to grow. He's got such a great skill set when it comes to the puck. He is a young player. Of course, he makes mistakes, and he's still kind of learning his style. And I do think this is something that Bednar, while losing Mikko and not being able to come to a deal, is a really, really sad realization and moment for the Avalanche. I think this is something that Bednar could be really, really excited about adding to his lineup, just because of that potential of a future holding on to Martin Necas and adding him to this team and assimilating him into this locker room. And onto this lineup.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's gonna be absolutely wild for the next couple of days, because trying to figure out getting both those guys out to Long Island on tomorrow, and then the
Avs play in Boston tomorrow too. So this is a quick turnaround. We could see both of these guys with all 3 of these guys with their brand new teams as soon as tomorrow.
All four of these guys. It's gonna be wild. And the thing for me is, though, I'm gonna be in Raleigh on February 1st when they play the LA Kings. So I'm hoping we talk to Mikko Rantanen for that, because it stinks I'm not gonna be there for this, because their only other home game is gonna be against Chicago, and I'm gonna be at work, and I'm like, do I just take that day off? I don't know. We're gonna have to figure that out, but I know I'm at least gonna be there for the LA Kings game on February 1st. It's going to be wild, because, I was there with you when we were in the locker room for the Avalanche when you were up here. Now I see Mikko Rantanen in the opposing locker room, and in the same season, he's going to be in the home locker room.
Yeah.
That's going to be absolutely wild. But
and to cap things off here too, I do want to assure fans. I talked to Mikko as recently as I want to say, oh gosh, it wasn't Tuesday. I want to say it was, oh gosh, no, when did I get back? Oh gosh, it was Monday. I talked to him on Monday post game, and he's a guy who's going to bring a lot of again passion to the locker room. This is a guy who is really, really serious about the game. He loves winning, but when they lose, it is a team effort. He's a great locker room guy. He's going to add so much fun, so many smiles to the locker room. He's going to fit right in. with this team. So even if he doesn't fit right in style wise on the ice, I do want you guys to keep in mind that the Hurricanes are getting a really, really great personality in the locker room in Mikko Rantanen.
No, 100% could not have said it any better. And we could talk about this for hours, but guys, we are going to have to wrap up this emergency podcast edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day, guys. If your second listen, go check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Check out Steal and Flip. Listen to all their topics and help you become better in your fantasy leagues because they do a great job over that. So check them out on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Bailey, thank you so much for jumping on. I know this is a lot longer than we thought it was going to be, but there was just so much to talk about because this is just an absolute insane trade that talks about 4 guys and draft picks. So thank you so much for jumping on this real quick and being able to give your insight on the Avalanche side of things. But before I let you go, though, where can people find you on the socials and where they can find your articles? Because now you're going to be talking about Martin Necas and Jack Drury a little bit more now in the burgundy and blue.
Oh gosh, if I didn't think I was doing it on the Surgecast, I sure as hell am now. Find me over on Twitter at Bailey Curtis, and that's Bailey with 2 Y's. Find my articles over on the Hockey News Colorado Avalanche site. Should have a fun one to write up before this Boston game that happens on Saturday.
Yeah. Yes, make sure to go do that. And guys, I'm on X at OneTrueZach. The podcast is @LO_Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky at @TheZacharyMartin. I got link trees. You can check out all my articles at the Hockey Writers or thehockeywriters.com. I'm hoping tonight, hopefully it's probably going to be tomorrow when it gets dropped. We'll see. There's going to be a deep dive into this trade because there's a lot to talk about with the fact that you get Mikko Rantanen and Taylor Hall. So make sure to go check that out. Check out my other podcast, The Surgecast. All podcast players on YouTube, super easy to find. For this show, Locked On Hurricanes is on Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio. Follow, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating and review. On YouTube, subscribe. Hit the bell notification so you don't miss the show. Hit the thumbs up button. Let me know if you liked the episode as well. Share with all other Caniacs so they become everydayers just like you. Like I said, guys, thank you for listening to the podcast today. I know it's a double episode day. This is a huge one. A lot to discuss and just figure out with this one because this is a massive trade for the Carolina Hurricanes. They now officially have Mikko Rantanen and Taylor Hall. I hope everyone enjoyed this episode of the Emergency Podcast. Hope everyone enjoys their Friday night, Saturday morning when you listen, and get ready for the Carolina Hurricanes to play the New York Islanders on Saturday on the island. And until next time, as always, let's go, Canes. They got Mikko Rantanen and Taylor Hall, baby. Let's go.